Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We are going to continue on with this week's theme of Eastern music, looking at music primarily from Africa and Asia, just as a way to vaguely get away from a very Western group of music that we tend to listen to, very American and European. So, as always, when this comes up, we're going to check out some SIGH. I feel like it's just like the representation that we get from black metal of this area. Although I think SIGH got a bit experimental at some part in their career as well. We're going to be looking at something that was from their SHIKI album, looking at the track SATSUI. Let's dive into it and see what SIGH is bringing to the table today. Dude, the drum sounds so good here. Okay. Ooh, pulling a bit of the Phrygian. That hi-hat work is slick. Very straightforward instrumentation, but it makes room for this almost hip-hop inspired vocal delivery that sounds so good. Someone let me know what that instrument is in the background. It's some sort of plucked string. Yeah, bringing in the choir of that chorus with the harsh vocals of the verse. So the same drum part as the verse, but a new guitar riff. Feels kind of chord adjacent. The harmony on it into the solo. That Phrygian dip gets me every time. Really cool wailing guitar over the beginning of that last phrase. Yeah, dude, all that tom work there was so good. Yeah, I dug that. I would wager this came out a little later. Oh, 2022 from the Shiki album. That's what it said. I think I heard this back in 2022. I'm kind of curious now. There is so much about this that I think just absolutely works in so many ways. It's still a bit aggressive. It's very metallic, but it kind of takes from a lot of different areas of metal, and I think that's what makes it most interesting. Is that it combines a lot of these different styles and ideas, and kind of makes it their own. And introduces some non-metallic ideas to it as well. We have the folk instrumentation. I don't know what instrument that is. Y'all can let me know in the comments. We also have the choir in here, the Phrygian tones, which do show up in metal often, but I wouldn't call a a staple of metal. And it just ends up creating something that, at least to me, is rather interesting and unique. It has its own flair while still very much being a metallic song. And a quick look through my spreadsheet, and I did listen to this the year it came out. Looks like it came out in August. Probably listened to it around that time, August 2022. I wonder why I don't remember it. This was before I started taking notes and giving ratings, so I have nothing in here other than knowing that I did listen to it and that my favorite song was Mayonaka no Kai, which I don't know what that song sounds like. I listen I listen to way too much music, I think, to remember things after just the first listen. I mean, you just gotta listen to things over and over. They're just not gonna stick. But if the album's anything like this track, and if I enjoyed another song more than this one, I think it's worth a re-listen because I had a blast with this. Now, the first thing that stands out to me, we gotta start with this. This is just awesome. The verse, dude. The verse, like very straightforward drumming. There's like eighth notes, constant going on. We have a pretty nice guitar riff, nothing too interesting or exquisite, just enough to keep the energy high and the metallic feel going. There's a bass here, once again, just kind of being a foundational idea. What really stands out to me here, and what is just phenomenal, is the vocal work, which seems to me, at least, to be very heavily inspired by rapping. Obviously, the delivery is still this nasally, gobliny, black metal, kind of harsh, but the rhythmic element of it, where the accent points come in the rhythm, you can find this in a lot of very mainstream hip hop these days. Especially how it plays around with rhythm alongside what the drums and guitars are doing, where the accent points are in the instruments, where the accent points are in the vocals, how that lines up and creates synergy and uh, why am I blanking out on this? Rhythmic counterpoint. What is this term? Syncopation. There we go. Dude, oh man. I feel like my brain has been dying. These last couple of weeks, I've been blanking out on terms that I don't usually. I'm kind of looking forward to this break at the end of the month. I think I'm going to need a little bit of rest. Anyways, back to this. That whole rhythmic style with the vocals. I've talked about this before. I think it was actually Ash Inspire, but there had to have been. No, Archspire, but there had to have been uh, another tech death band actually that focused on a sort of rapped delivery of their harsh vocals that I just think works so well. It gives so much character to it, and I would love to see it more. I'm glad I'm seeing it here. But other than that, the verse is kind of not really noteworthy. It sets an atmosphere, sure, but like I said, everything's rather foundational. The chorus, though, takes us to the next really cool idea, which is this wide vocal idea. It might be backing vocals as well. I think there is a lot of harmony here, but there's also just a really large widening out of the sound and a bit of a lean towards the Phrygian mode, which gives it that stereotypically Middle Eastern feel in that moment. Bum, ba, ba, bum. Yeah, that whole part just sounds so good. The feeling of it, the push and pull, where we have the driving parts, and it kind of like scopes out a little bit, slows down, and then like punches back in and speeds up. I love that back and forth. It's just a really cool way of controlling the time feel of the entire chorus there, and taking something a bit more static like the verse and introducing dynamic components to the song overall by having this back and forth, this push and pull in the chorus with this very large feeling to it. There's almost an epicness to the production of everything. It's also in here that we get to hear a few more interesting guitar licks. They're usually there as punctuating ideas. They come in on bar 7 and 8 of the 8-bar phrase. And the drums also align with that too, occasionally getting some drum fills, particularly heavy use of the toms, which I'm going to touch on later. But this entire chorus is just very cool. And if it wasn't for this, I don't know if I would be as receptive to the track. I love how it sort of sits as contrast to the more straightforward, harsh vocals of the verse. It gives us that dynamic quality that I really look forward to in metal. Metal can't, well, all genres can be one note, but metal's one note typically doesn't work for me. I like when it's paired with other things, and I think SIGH does a fantastic job of bringing balance in this song between the verse and the chorus. And speaking about balance, I did not mean for this segue. The bridge is a perfect balance of the two sides. We have a little bit more of the driving drum work. We have some cool guitar riffs in here. We have some harsh vocals, but also some clean. It kind of brings everything together here. And I think it's pretty cool. A little bit of the verse, a little bit of the chorus. And then, of course, this leads into an unexpected guitar solo. This feels like a very straightforward heavy metal guitar solo. It's got a little bit of bluesiness in it while still retaining much of that metal feel, that darkness. It feels kind of stereotypical. It speeds up sometimes. We kind of get into some shred. The shred eventually kind of backs down. We get some more measured, tasteful, melodic playing that eventually speeds back up into shred. I mean, this is the 70s, 80s heavy metal 101 right here. But what I love is, once again, it's about the little changes to it. Every once in a while, once every 8 bars or so, we'll throw a little bit of Phrygian in there. We're going to introduce some harmonic variation, kind of spice that up a little bit. The drums are not rather static in the background. They do pretty much hold down the tempo, but there's also a couple of drum fills throughout the solo that helps push the song forward and groups it up into these smaller chunks, almost as if chopping the solo up into chapters. I think that ends up making it a bit more palatable and interesting, at least from my point of view, because instead of just viewing it as this one idea, you kind of get these little chunks. And guitarists kind of do this anyways, where you'll have like 4 bars of shred, and then 4 bars of tapping, and then 4 bars of melodic writing. And I've actually commented on this with bands in the past too. It's a very common way to create a guitar solo, kind of chunk it up like this, but having the drums lean into that almost feels as if saying, yeah, we understand the trope and we're going to lean into it a little bit more. And to me, that sort of observation just kind of helps it stand out a little bit, and it does something new. Instead of trying to disguise it, they say, yeah, let's turn it into chapters, let's do this. And so the drummer actually gets to be a part of that guitar solo. And then, of course, we bring it back to the final chorus, but the ending is also another place that oh man, I'm kind of torn about. I don't know if ambivalence is the right word, but it is kind of love-hate here. It feels very extended and long-winded, and it kind of drags a little bit. At a point, I was like, okay, that's a good place to end. And you didn't think so. We're still going. But the idea behind it of having this cool guitar lick going on, it's a new guitar lick as well. Just like the bridge introduced a new one that I quite enjoyed, here we have another pretty rule of cool guitar lick here. But behind that, the drummer's going absolutely wild on these toms. Every once in a while throwing a snare in for accent, but really focusing on creating almost these melodic lines on the toms. You know, you have a high tom, maybe two mids, and a floor tom. You got four notes there. Same thing the timpani has. You can create melodic ideas out of this. And so we get quite a bit of that. We do have a lot of rundowns, starting from the highest and just coming down. It's paired with production panning, which is kind of interesting too. I don't think it's necessarily something they purposefully panned, because it's just the way that drums tend to get produced, which is you set up one side of the drums on one side, so that might be your hi-hat and your snare, and as you go across the kit, they pan around the listener. I mean, that's just how a lot of drums get produced. But the idea here that is this constant horizontal movement because of all of this, the movement in the drum work along the toms. So it creates something that feels both vertical because of the rising and falling pitches, but also horizontal because of just the way that drums are produced alongside this really killer riff. And it's just a really cool way to end the track. Like I said, it does go on a fair bit too long, but at least the drums aren't completely repeating themselves, and so it doesn't feel like a static repetition. There is evolution to it, even if it is a bit more muted, because they are wrapping the song up. They can't start doing, a totally brand new idea here. But all of it, like I said, kind of comes together to create this interesting sound. It is definitely heavy metal, but we also have a little bit of metal core in there. As I said during the reaction, that the bridge guitar lick kind of reminded me of something core adjacent, especially when the harmonies came in. The solo is 100% heavy metal. We have a little bit of prog in there, throwing in the Phrygian. We have the choir, we have the cleans, we have a wrapped delivery of the vocals. The black metal vocals are there in the verse. And the end result just ends up being very SIGH. And I find that to be really interesting, especially given their origins. As I mentioned earlier, I'm pretty sure they started out as a straightforward black metal band, and they've just kind of grown from there and moved into experimental areas. And honestly, I kind of dig it. I don't remember disliking this album when I listened to it, so like I said, I kind of want to listen to it again, see what I think of it now, 2 years later. Yeah, let's dive into some lyrics, see what's going on there. This is just a straightforward revenge song, I think. It is in Japanese, so this is a rough, probably not great translation. It says, "By the devil in human skin, if it had trampled on me, it would have killed me. But now I only want to kill him in the blink of an eye. The few tears I have that remain are gone. And what little reason I have left is insatiable. It turns into food for revenge, and it kills. There is no reason to live, no reason to suddenly change your mind." The second verse speaks about how he has become a beast prowling in search of its prey. It kind of goes along with the same things we saw earlier, just kind of being very narrow-minded. One task at hand, that's all it is. The chorus, or I guess the pre-chorus says, "My tears dry up and my heart is bursting." The chorus just says, "I will kill you with my own hands," over and over and over. The bridge goes on again. It looks like he caught up with this person who he really hates. And he says, "Your life is worthless. You're begging for your life. You should disappear from the world right now. You should never have been born." He says, "If you escape me this time, I'll still hunt you down until I'm done with you." And then we come back to the verse, "I'll kill you with my own hands." It's very straightforward, very narrow-minded. It captures the rage of someone hell-bent on revenge. There's not really any room to read anything different out of that. I find that interesting then to pair it with this music. I mean, on one level, yeah, I mean, this is metal, right? It's got aggression built into it. But on the other hand, this is kind of a lighter form of metal. I don't really get this sort of intensity and anger and wrath from the vocal delivery or the music. Everything in here is kind of chill and laid back. It's got a nice groove to it. I mean, I'm moving along. I'm not angry. I'm bouncing. I'm dancing to this song. So I find that to be a really interesting contrast there. I'm not sure what artistic thing to read out of that. Maybe it's just one of those cases where they wrote a pretty cool song and wrote, put some lyrics to it. But I don't know. Maybe there is a purpose for the division here that I'm just not getting. But these are my thoughts on SAI's SATSUI. Let me know what you thought of this track. If there's anything that stood out to you, anything that you would like to add on to what I said or correct me on, maybe you have your own interpretation or opinion on this song, put all of that stuff and whatever else you'd like to add in the comment section of this track. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Well, I mean, do that too, but head into the description box and you can find ways to support the channel. You can find a link to my music. You can join the Discord server and so much more from here. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. And that wraps it up for this one. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC as usual. We're going to continue on exploring music from primarily Africa and Asia. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.